All right, hello guys. How are you? We're going to be talking about Rhaegar today because he's such one of these interesting characters where either people in the story love him or people in the story hate him. You have very much extremes. You have people like Robert Baratheon hate his guts, hate all the Targaryens, and then you have other people like, Daenerys who again, she has kind of some biased sources coming from people like Viserys and Barristan, but that all love Rhaegar and want to be, and Daenerys herself wants to be like Rhaegar. She's compared to Rhaegar all the time. She has dreams of Rhaegar. But the real question that we're going to try to answer in this stream is who is he actually? And do we really even know? We really don't. Given the information that we have at the moment, we can speculate based off his actions, the few times we hear him actually say things. Rhaegar is a very tough character to really nail down. But let me respond to chat before we dive in. Um, Northern Tommy compared him to a pretty boy Chad, who even his enemies admired to an extent, well loved to this very day. Surely no man can be so beloved and yet be wicked. Rhaegar is like that guy your ex starts dating a month or so after you break up, and you can't help but be like, well, he is a stud. That's not really how I would compare Rhaegar to. Rhaegar to me is a he's somebody that, yes, on the surface level of things, like he was a great musician and he was very attractive and all that stuff. But at the same time, he's also somebody that's like, he's a kind of a little sus, like in terms of, okay, going after Lyanna, whatever happened there. In my opinion, it was a bit more of a manipulative thing from Rhaegar's side of things. People look at that very differently. Some people look at that as like, oh, it's this tragic love story. I don't necessarily look at it from that point of view. And so Rhaegar's a really tough character because you look at his actions, and what it indicates is he did not take like the war seriously, for instance, right? He at any time could have tried and helped stop the war before it really got going, but he allowed things to happen, and then he only shows up at the very end with the Battle of the Trident. Like, Rhaegar is a really, really weird character to me. But yeah. Hi Jacob, by the way, and no worries. Hope you enjoy the stream when you come back and watch it. But this music is kind of fire. Well, that is basically the droid theme. So of course it's a banger. I do love my droids. Matthew hates Rhaegar. It's true. It's true. Violet says he's weird to me because everyone says and thinks that he's such a great guy, but everything we read about him is horrible. It's very action versus perception. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. I think the way I look at it, Violet, is the only times we ever really learn about Rhaegar is through people that were like best friends with him or were Targaryens themselves, or we have it the opposite point of view, and it's people that obviously hated him, like Robert, right? And so you come to this weird point where I feel like we don't have the best view of him overall. Like, we don't have the full picture of his life because, like, another part of it, right? If you look at Rhaegar and Lyanna, he leaves his wife and his two children while the war is, raging on, while Aerys is using them, as tools during the war, and Rhaegar doesn't even seem to care. So again, like you pointed out, Violet, there's a lot of actions to me that indicate this is not the best guy in the world, but everybody else seems to have a really good high regard of him. So maybe it's that middle ground. Maybe it's one of those things where we hear all the time, in the media, a celebrity, right? They might hold themselves really well, and everybody might think they're this great person, and then it comes out later on a scandal, and then our perception of that character completely changes. Could very easily be something like that with Rhaegar. Honestly, I don't hate Rhaegar because I feel we don't know him as a person. Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. Like, we're kind of speculating on what we think he was as a person. We just don't have the full answers. Uh, you guys are very chatty today. Hi Peach Rabbit, how are you? Hi Crab. Rhaegar is so tough. The way he kidnaps minors. Yeah, yeah. No, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. Hi Mac, how are you? Glad you managed to catch a stream. We need the Rhaegar Defense Force. I mean, I think the best way to go about if you're going to be a big defender of Rhaegar is you say that all of his actions were to save the world, right? That everything that he did going with Lyanna, it was all that so that he could have Jon, and Jon is going to be the person that saves the world. And so in the end, we'll look at Rhaegar and go, maybe his actions were not the best, but they got us to the end result that led, the world, the living, to surviving. That's the way I look at it, right? If you're gonna say Rhaegar is, a great character, all that stuff, he's a good guy, that's where I would kind of argue. I'm trying to figure out what my chair is stuck on. Hold on. It's like stuck on the rug. Cause like, so when I'm in down here in my basement, we don't have like a carpet or wood. Like we have an unfinished basement for the most part. But my little corner over here, I have like 3 carpets from Walmart to make it, the sound doesn't travel as much. And I think I was like stuck on two of the carpets or the two of the rugs. He's still my silver prince though. Fair enough. I will say Rhaegar does have the artwork of Rhaegar is some of my favorite artwork in the community. I think my favorite artwork piece is Rhaegar and Robert on the Trident, like they're on horseback. That famous art piece. I used to have it in the back of a lot of my videos when I used to have like the glow thing around my like webcam, and then I used to have the image in the background. I really do love that art. So Rhaegar definitely had some style. Also, hi Kirsty, how are you? Happy 4th of May, Dakota coming in with the trolls. We love to see that. But how are you, Dakota? Rhaegar is that emo teen in class. I 100% agree. I really thought about playing some emo type music for the intro, but I was like, I don't know. I don't like Rhaegar personally, too self-serving. Yeah, definitely. The show idolized him. I agree. Like in the show, we really only see Rhaegar as a great guy and all that stuff, and you don't really see how it's like, it's kind of weird. I want to see an adaptation of Robert smashing his breastplate. Yes, Robert was strong those days. I don't see any love story with a 23-year-old and 15-year-old as a tragic romance, but manipulative and gross. Violet, I agree with you. But if you go on the place that is known as Twitter/X, there's a lot of things on there. It's not great. But yeah, I agree with you. I agree 100%. He kept 3 of his father's best commanders and fighters out of the war. Another great point. Another great point. Um, but in seriousness, he was involved in a bunch of shady stuff. I view him more as wanting himself to be the person in the prophecy and becoming unhinged as he realizes he's not 100% understanding it. So the thing with Rhaegar is that Rhaegar, we know eventually he realizes he was not the person that's supposed to be in this prophecy. He starts to believe that that is Aegon. Maybe this is young Griff, maybe it's not, but Aegon, his son with Elia, he believed that was who the prince that was promised was. And then he wanted a third kid because the dragon has to have 3 heads. So he believed that to be his daughter with Elia, and then also another kid with Lyanna, presumably Jon. So yeah, it's one of those things where Rhaegar kind of becomes consumed with this prophecy. His whole life is almost driven by it. We hear this idea that Rhaegar was somebody that didn't like to do sword fighting and be a warrior, but once he realized he needed to do those things because of prophecy, he then did. So he was somebody that almost seems completely, motivated by prophecy. Even his sad demeanor type, idea, the way we, look at him as a character, kind of maybe stems from, well, the world's going to end and I'm the only person that can stop it. Maybe that's the vibe that George was going for with that character, but we just don't know. I mean, another thing is like to question is when George was making the character of Rhaegar Targaryen, did he have in mind this idea of Aegon's dream and all of that stuff? You just don't know. So there's again, that's why I say with Rhaegar and why I think this topic's so interesting for a stream is because we just have to look at his actions. We have to look at the small snippets of his life. Like for instance, Jaime and Rhaegar talking, like their last interaction, how Rhaegar is so sure that he's going to come back and things are going to be different, that he's going to win the Battle of the Trident, even when the odds are kind of 50-50 and leaning towards Robert. Robert had a more seasoned army. Robert himself was a great warrior at the time. He had great, counselors and people around him for wartime. That was great. The war had been turning in Robert's favor, and the Robert side of the war, they had a cause, right? There was a whole rationale as to why they were going to war. These were men that were backing, whether it be the Starks, whether it be the Baratheons, whether it be the Tullys, because you look at the injustices that the Targaryens had done to all these different houses and all that stuff. They had a reason to fight. Whereas, like, if you're Targaryen, a loyalist faction, what are you fighting for? This mad king that is doing some crazy stuff. This guy Rhaegar, who is off at the tower for majority of the war, who seems to have kidnapped this girl. What are you fighting for? I mean, the only people really in the Loyalist army that had something that was clear of what they were fighting for was like the Dornish, because Elia was being held captive, basically. So that's kind of where I look at it. It's like you look at Rhaegar, and he seemed to be like, well, I'm the person in this prophecy, so there's no way I can lose the Battle of the Trident. Everything's going to go my way, because that's just what prophecy is foretold. That's kind of the way I view the character of Rhaegar, almost in a similar light to like Jojen. So Jojen's a character that seems very cocksure he's not going to die, right? He has to die at a certain point. In A Clash of Kings, I've been doing my reread, and when we get with Bran and Jojen and Mira, when Jojen and Mira are trying to introduce him into this, three-eyed crow and the old gods and all that stuff, Bran gets really mad at them, and the wolves actually attack Jojen and Mira, and Jojen is like, oh, don't worry, I'm not going to die, right? This isn't my destiny, all that kind of stuff. Mira's still like, get in the damn tree, but that's kind of the same idea that I feel with Rhaegar, that Rhaegar felt like the prophecy maybe protected him or something like that, right? Because his line was going to be that. Plus, I just think he was probably very cocky, and someone like that, he was a Targaryen prince. He was going to set to inherit the Iron Throne. You can see kind of where all those things kind of build up to. Ned never says anything bad about Rhaegar. In fact, he even believes he wouldn't frequent brothels as Robert does. Yeah, Ned like barely ever even thinks about Rhaegar, which is something that's quite interesting. I think personally that Ned has almost like mentally blocked Rhaegar out of his head. He doesn't want to be reminded of what probably happened at the Tower of Joy and the events that led to a lot of his family's death. But the small times that we do, get Rhaegar, it brings up a question. It's like if Rhaegar, wouldn't go to these brothels like Ned says, why did he go with, Lyanna? And so that's kind of what paints it to Rhaegar had some need of Lyanna, whether it was that he just lusted after her, which seems unlikely given the brothel statement. It seems to be this was kind of like a means to an end, right? Rhaegar needed a third child. Elia could not provide that child, and so Rhaegar maybe was enticed by Lyanna being, at this tournament, the tourney of Harrenhal, and being a great jouster and being fearless and being described as like a wild wolf, more or less, like I could see it, right? And so I think there's a lot of interesting things like that. We get a lot of like offhand comments about Rhaegar. Why didn't he just divorce Elia if having another child was so important? I would have respected him more if he was just honest and divorced her. So this is another interesting point that I wanted to talk about in this stream at some point. We don't actually know the full details of Rhaegar and Elia's marriage. So maybe that was always the plan. Like maybe Rhaegar had told Elia once the war is over, we're getting a divorce. Or maybe, Elia, we're still going to be married, but I'm also going to take, Lyanna as a wife as well. So he was going to go back to maybe the idea of Aegon the Conqueror having two wives. Maybe that's what he was going to do. We don't really know, because the end of Robert's Rebellion is so mysterious, and especially things that Rhaegar was doing. You think about all of Rhaegar's companions and things that he was closest with, all of them die basically. So there's not a lot of people that would tell us into the inside of Rhaegar and his inner circle, outside of maybe people like Jon Connington, for instance, or Barristan kind of, but not really. Like Barristan wasn't really in that inner circle of Rhaegar's. Like almost all those people are dead or missing. So, I think that's it's an interesting aspect of if George will ever, address that. Like in the show, we see that D&D addressed it by saying that Rhaegar annulled his marriage with Elia. I wonder if George will do something along those lines. Rhaegar isn't beating the allegations. Unfortunately, he is caught in 4K. But in Rhaegar's defense, if we want to do a Rhaegar defense, in medieval times, that age was fine. Nowadays, it's not good. It's not good. It's just weird. Like a 23-year-old with a 15-year-old, like it just doesn't sit right. It just doesn't sit right. But if we're going off of medieval times, Rhaegar's fine. But it's still weird. It's still sus. Still not good. But yeah. Um, yeah, we really don't see a lot of emotion from Rhaegar. Outside of like he sings maybe very sad or somber songs, but it's not him tearing up. It's like the maids watching him, they tear up, for instance. So yeah, Rhaegar is somebody that we don't see ever really have a big emotional moments, like being super angry or being super teary eyed or super happy. He's very like one note a lot of the times. Someone needs to check Rhaegar's hard drive. That's all I'm saying. Dakota, I back this up. Can we get a warrant or whatnot and just bust down Rhaegar's door? Maybe I mean maybe Robert. That's why he was so mad. Maybe it wasn't just the Lyanna stuff. Maybe the Baratheons or maybe Varys, gave Robert Baratheon a hard drive, and that's what fueled that anger. But yeah, it lends credence to the manipulative, kidnappy aspect. If we examine Lyanna's characterization, she's often compared to Arya, and Arya rarely, if ever, seemed interested in that stuff. Even so, the only thing I would say about that is in the stories we get about the Tourney of Harrenhal, and specifically the Night of the Laughing Tree, it seems like Lyanna like had a strong reaction to Rhaegar like singing. So it could be that. It could also be that Rhaegar, won a tournament. Maybe that impressed Lyanna. Rhaegar is basically who every girl wanted. So I don't think it's that far to say that maybe Lyanna would have been into him. I don't think it's crazy, but you know. Cersei is also into minors. Well, Cersei has a lot of issues, okay? You can just pile those on there. I mean, just pile them on. Oh my god, you guys are so chatty. I'm so far behind. I'm so far behind in chat right now. I really apologize. If you guys are commenting something and you see I don't get to it for a while, it's because I'm pretty far behind. But I'm trying my best. Gods, Robert was strong then. He was strong then. It's true. And then he became an alcoholic and he never got over Lyanna, even though him and Lyanna weren't even like in the talking stage of a relationship. He just was like, "Man, I really love the idea of this girl." I'm glad every day I never got a Twitter. Yeah, it's probably the worst social media platform. If you want me to be honest, I genuinely think it's probably the worst of all the main social medias. I think it's probably the worst one. I always wonder if perhaps Rhaegar knew his fate at the Trident, even after telling Jaime he was gonna come back. I don't think so. I don't like none of that suggests that he would do that. I mean, maybe the idea is okay. Well, Rhaegar knew that he would have to die at the Trident for the prophecy to come true, but how would he know that? Like, is he getting dreams of the future? Like Daron, for instance. I don't know. I don't think there's enough to maybe suggest that, but it is an interesting thought. Barristan and John Con with their weird hero worship of Rhaegar. It is true. It is true. John Con might also, maybe I've had a little crush on Rhaegar. We don't know. That's kind of the way it comes off sometimes. Oh, if I've said it, we need a catch a predator. Okay, you know what? That might be funny, Dakota. You know what? I'll let me write that down because I still have from the stream the other day. I still have that page open, so I that would be I think more of a funny YouTube short than would be a full video. And I will have some free time in the coming weeks, so maybe I'll film something. That'd be funny. I think the problem is that Rhaegar died. If he lived, I feel he would have done better things and for the kingdom compared to his father. And honestly, he might have been better. Oh, he easily would have been better than Robert. I think Rhaegar is somebody that I think would have actually cared about the rulership. Robert didn't care. Aerys went mad. I think Rhaegar had the potential to be a solid king. I like Rhaegar Targaryen. Too bad he was smashing Lyanna for all those days in Dorne. Maybe he would have had more strength on Triton. Yeah, I did a whole series about Robert's Rebellion, and it's one of my favorite things I've done on the channel. But I really enjoyed like looking at almost like event by event Robert's Rebellion, because Robert's Rebellion should have been easily crushed, easily crushed. You think about how we get to the Battle of the Trident. We have Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark. They are basically trapped in the Vale. The whole of the Vale, right, isn't even backing the Arryns, right? They have difficulty even getting out of the Vale. So you have Ned, who has to go all the way back to the north, smuggling his way back up north, taking a fairly dangerous route as well, to get his forces, do a Robb Stark, pull all of the northern power south. That's they again. This is taking weeks and weeks and weeks. Robert somehow has to get from the Vale all the way down to the storm ones. Okay, he has to rally the storm ones, which again are not fully even backing Robert at this point. He has to win a bunch of battles. He then has to get that host all the way up to the northern point of Westeros, going past King's Landing. Right now, he does, lose a battle to Randall Tarley. The credit goes to Mace Tyrell, but he loses a battle on his way up, but it's not really enough. You then have, again, it's just the fact of how does the Vale, the North, and the Riverland forces meet up with Robert to begin with. Just the amount of incompetence that had to be done by people like Aerys, for instance, and Rhaegar not being there is what had allowed it to happen. If they had taken the threat seriously from the get-go and sent armies wherever they needed to go, like for instance, maybe the Vale, maybe again to the Stormlands. Robert was at his weakest in terms of power in the Stormlands. They sent out like a loyalist army with the Dornish forces. Then Robert is dead. There doesn't matter how good Robert is. He's lost the war. So yeah, I mean, there's just a whole amount of things. Like, there's no way the Targaryens should have lost Robert's Rebellion, and they somehow fumbled it. So, Rhaegar never made the 8. Oh boy. Jojen may know when he dies, but he likely doesn't actually know how he dies. I agree, April. I think that's a fair assessment. I notice I block out things I feel stressed or guilty about in the past. I think a lot of people do. I think there's two ways of that. Is some people I think block it out, and some people like it just stays on their mind until they work through it. But I definitely agree. How creditable is Ned though? That's like saying Robert knew all about Lyanna. Like again, I don't think Ned knew all about Rhaegar. I think that he is somebody that it's kind of like us. Like he was kind of making his own judgments based off of actions and the limited time he's seen. So yeah, he's not the most credible source. You can't just divorce people in Westeros. You can if you're a Targaryen and you have all the power. It'll be frowned upon by the public or by the faith, I would say, but you can still do it if you have the power to, do it. Uh, Lyanna would never settle for being a second wife. Maybe Rhaegar hadn't told her that. Maybe Rhaegar was manipulating her, telling her, "Oh yeah, you're gonna be my wife, and Elia is gonna be, dealt with." And who knows? I'm trying to catch up with chat, so I'm really struggling here. Um, Fumbling Elia Martell for a 15-year-old. I can only imagine he was insane. And if Elia looked anything like Ariane Martell, I really don't know what he was doing. I really don't know. But we know what he was doing. He wanted another kid. But yeah. Oh my god, YouTube. Stop scrolling all the way to the bottom when I'm trying to scroll through chat, and I gotta go all the way back up. Uh, okay. Rhaegar not kidnapping Lyanna reflects very bad on Lyanna. She at best is a hypocrite. I agree. Now, I won't place it on Lyanna because she's 15. Like, it's kind of tough. Like Lyanna, if Rhaegar was like her first love, like that's tough. Like, it's your first love. Like, think about that and just put that into if you're 15 years old. It's still on Rhaegar, but like, yes, Lyanna deserves a little bit of that blame. So, personally, I don't think Lyanna is innocent, but the problem with that is that Lyanna is 15, so we naturally have sympathy. 15 is Lyanna get out of jail free card. I mean, yeah. I mean, put yourself as you're a 15-year-old whatever, right? Like in her situation, 15-year-old girl. And you've got this prince that's heir to the throne. He's going to become king and he's lusting after you and he's promising you things and you're in love with him and all this stuff. Like, it clouds your judgment. And it doesn't even mean to say that Lyanna didn't regret what happened when she started seeing things happening, but what can she do about it? I think that's the tough part. Like, should she have sent like a letter to inform her family what's going on? Probably, but she didn't. So, you know, it's just how it is. Northern Tommy, thank you for you know, stepping in here and stuff. Twitter is worse than TikTok. Yes, yes, yes. Twitter is literally like my Twitter is literally tailored towards a Song of Ice and Fire stuff, of course, but without throwing people under the bus and their beliefs. I get like bombarded with the most horrible House of the Dragon takes I've ever seen in my feed, or just people with that like are like cult followings of stuff, and it's just like, yeah. I explained it on stream. Well, I don't remember which stream, but I literally explained it. I think it was last stream. I made a comment just suggesting that Viserys is a well-written character, and you get attacked by the Daenerys can do no wrong fan base. So that like that's a small fraction of the, yeah. I mean, TikTok's not a great place either, to be honest, but it's better than Twitter. At least there's some good things on TikTok. There's things you can gain from being on TikTok. Twitter, it's just you're on there and it's like, oh, it's people yelling at each other, and yeah, it's what it is. Um, Rhaegar is a tragic character because it's driven by prophecy, and those people tend to end very bad in A Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, I mean it's a good point, Astro. Like Rhaegar, there's no way Rhaegar could have predicted that his actions would lead to the destruction of his whole family, basically, and what was going to happen. But should he have taken better steps? Yeah. Should he have done things way differently? Yeah. And you can understand it from the point of like, if Rhaegar's doing all these actions, he believes this is how the world will be saved. This will be how Aegon's dream is fulfilled. I can see the rationale, albeit I don't think it is a good rationale. So, we'll see. Aerys believes that Prince Lewin betrayed him on the Trident. Aerys is right. Dane tells Ned that their knees don't bend easily. He meant his Dornish knees. So, I mean, the problem I have with this is I don't think Lewin would betray um, Aerys, just given the fact that Aerys would have just had like Elia killed and probably her children as well. I just don't think that Lewin would have done that unless you're suggesting that at that point Lewin goes undercover, and that's a whole nother theory that I don't really want to get into too much. But if he betrayed Aerys, there has to be some explanation as to why Lewin or how he was able to disappear as easily as he was and all that stuff. So I don't know. Also, I want to point out, I finally have gotten through Andor to where where like it is right now. And I will say, I think the first season really good. Second season still like good, but like it feels like a dip from the first season. Like the first season I was just much more invested in, and then the second season it's like there's like plots in the second season where I'm just like I just don't care that much. I don't know like why. This is gonna be a whole little. This is a whole tangent on Andor, like a mid discussion point with Rhaegar. Um, I don't know, like Andor. I think to me works best when it's telling like the story of actually Cassian and the people like around him and the effect the Imperials are having on people living on these different planets and stuff. I really just am not interested in the Empire side of things. Like the Empire story, like with our like main like antagonists, villains of this story. I just don't really care about that side of the story all that much. The character of like what's his name, Cyril or whatever. I just genuinely dislike that character. Not from like he's a villain, so like of course I don't like him, but like I just am not interested by his plot at all. But I don't know. That's like my midstream just like review of Andor. I think probably the best thing Disney's put out Star Wars wise in terms of live action since Rogue One. But yeah, I'm interested to see where season two goes. As of right now, I think season two not as good as season one, but still good. If Viserys became king, would the Lannisters be killed off for regicide? So Tywin put all his chips on Robert. I mean, yeah, like if the Lannisters still do what they do and Viserys became king, yeah, the Lannisters are toast. I mean, at least Tywin. At least Tywin is gone. A lot of his main supporters gone. I don't think the whole family would be destroyed, but definitely there would be some steep consequences. Wait, hold up. Aren't Robert and Rhaegar around the same age? Yes. They're around the same age? I don't know. Let's find out the age difference actually. Robert Baratheon. Let's see what year was he born? So he was born in 262 AC. What about good old Rhaegar? When was he born? Come on, slow laptop. You got this. Lock in. He was born in 259 AC, so there's about a 3-year gap between Robert and Rhaegar. So yeah, they are pretty similar in age. I truly believe that if Rhaegar was ugly, none of this would be happening. Yeah, but like think about how many Targaryens are described as ugly. Like they are literally described as being like we have the god genes. Like we are just always looking good. Like there are some people that are not described as attractive in the Targaryen family, but that's pretty rare. Terrible takes like House Stark is honorable. You know what? Save that because next Tuesday, um, for my time, it'll be noon central. For Europe, it's going to be around. I know for Germany, it's going to be 7 p.m. their time. Um, but we're going to be doing a hot takes. So Dakota, I would save that for that. I hate calling people casuals, but Twitter fans feel like casual viewers obsessed with shipping, and I hate shipping. I agree, Matthew. I agree. The only wholesome God, oh YouTube, I'm gonna freak out right now. I'm like trying to read a chat by Dakota, okay, so he doesn't bully me, and then instantly it goes right down to the bottom of the chat. The only wholesome place on the internet is the Grease Goblin comment section. uh, as long as we're not talking Ned and Ashara, then it is very civil usually, for the most part. I had a person say I made a terrible takes for the King video yesterday, which I'm just like I don't really know how you even have a bad take. Like, you can theoretically argue any of the top three kings as the right answer, and I can see your rationale, but like, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, for the most part, I would say like 99% of you guys are fantastic. There's some other ones that I'm like, yeah. Hi, JC. How are you? Eric completely skipped over the Trojan War comparison. Yeah. Yeah. You guys were talking, so you guys were yapping about the Trojan War, and I was just like, I'll let them yap in the chat. Well, I got other things we're talking about. The whole shipping thing is for the 16 to 8-year-old viewers mostly. It's pretty cringe to me, but that's what they enjoy about the show. So, whatever makes you happy. Yeah, whatever makes you happy, as long as you don't, start insulting other people and stuff like that. Uh, I do think it's interesting though, because if he didn't do any of that, everyone would be dead. He did bring forth the prophecy and dragons, just not the way he thought. Yeah, like that's the thing, Violet. Like, if we get to the end of the story and everything goes well, or as well as it can be, we survive, the others are defeated or whatever. Like, Rhaegar will be looked at a bit differently. Like especially if his actions directly caused everything to go well. Also, hi Ashley, how are you? So Mats, I think that Jamie was being used against Tywin. Now he wasn't used correctly because he should have been using, more diplomacy with Tywin, offering Tywin things to get him on his side. But he basically was telling Tywin, yeah, Jamie is at my command. If you go with Robert, I kill Jamie and your heir. And your heir situation is not looking so good right now, Tywin. So I think that Aerys was using Jamie, just again, it wasn't in a way that got Tywin on his side necessarily. Oh God, JC's gonna get the. Oh no, he got caught in 4K. JC's been caught in 4K for another time, so hmm. He must be a Homer fan. I don't even know what that means. Um, This is crazy. Okay, this is how far I can tell I'm behind. Ashley's responding to comments I made about Lewin's possible survival, which for me felt like 10 minutes ago, and I'm just now I'm seeing it. That's crazy. Um, in my opinion, A Song of Ice and Fire is well written enough to deserve my full attention. To this end, stuff like shipping Jamie and Asha is a bit silly. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Rhaegar is actually 3 years older than Robert. Yeah, like for okay, so discussing Aerys. Aerys was a pretty normal like king and even had potential to be a good king. It's just I think a lot of things added up. I think one of those things is pride, like watching Tywin get all the credit for things that or like getting credit for his reign more or less. And Aerys, I felt like he felt overlooked. Like Tywin was viewed as the real king. Like we even get that idea like when Stannis comes to King's Landing and he thought Tywin was the king. That's a lot of the sentiment during the time. Then you have people like Varys who are constantly in Aerys's ear telling people that are saying treasonous things or planning to do treasonous stuff or whatever. It kind of just I think went to Aerys, and then Duskendale was like the tipping point. It was like the okay, everything I've been hearing from Varys must be true now. Uh, Greece again. Your setup is fire. News YouTuber is here. Yeah. I've been trying. The issue with it, and sometimes it changes, is when I like my camera. Sometimes I have it zoomed in more than other times, or like the height of my tripod is different. Sometimes it just like, for instance, the reread coming out tomorrow for Renly's Peach, I really dislike the framing because the framing is like right here, so it like cuts off the top part of my hair and it looks like kind of bad. Um, but yeah, growing problems, that's all I'll say. Hey, Robert's still kind of creepy. That's all I'm saying. Are you going to buy the illustrated version of A Feast for Crows coming out in November? Maybe JC, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. Well, if it looks really cool, then sure. Though I miss your bedroom and your unmade bed, well, you can always go back and rewatch the Game of Thrones reread on the second channel, and you can go see the unmade bed. It's still there. Northern Tommy, no, you're good. So Papa Khan is Dakota. What do you think of the green color scheme? Oh, you're talking about the book. I don't know. I haven't even seen the book. So, you know. Oh my God. YouTube, stop. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. Okay. I'm going to skip over the apt comparison between the Trojan War and the in Robert's Rebellion. Yep. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I don't think Rhaegar was a villain at all. I think he took Lyanna for her own protection to save her from men Aerys had sent to arrest her, and by the time he got Lyanna to safety, First Blood had already happened. Okay. Ashley, I would like to hear your thoughts on that. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that because I differ from that quite a lot. So I'd just be interested to see what's your rationale for why you think those things happened. It's hard to defend and say you like Rhaegar when many bad actions are shown, but I would like to defend him in some cases since many seem to hate and overlook his character. I think that's fair. Renly's peach is too big for the screen. You know, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. We need a bed cam. You know what? Here's what I'll do for you. Yeah, I think we're getting a cat in the summer, and if that cat manages to sleep on my bed a lot, I'll give you a bed cam, but it'll be of the cat as well. So there's something that's actually there. That's all I'll say. Grease should bring his unmade bed down to the basement to appease his bed. Ooh, I got an idea. So here's what we'll do. Well, I won't bring the full like frame, but I'll have like the I'll have the mattress and I'll just like have it against the wall, and it'll be like unmade for you guys, and it just yeah yeah. Uh, Rhaegar taking Lyanna to Dorne to protect her. Yeah, you'd think if you're gonna protect Lyanna, you might just like take her to Riverrun, but I don't know. I don't know. Again, I'd like to see Ashley's rationale. I don't know. Not to bring down the mood, but both of my cats have died. Well, you guys would never have known the first cat because the first cat died, I think, right before this channel started, and then the other one died like 2.5 years ago, something like that. I don't know. I don't know if I will have the naming rights to said cat. I basically named my first. Well, okay. I kind of explained that really weirdly because my first cat was actually the cat I had the longest. The second cat was like a stray that we found in our backyard, and then we fed it, and then it started living with us. But yeah, so my first cat was named Sky, but it was actually supposed to be named. It was named after Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker, and then that got shut down. So instead of Skywalker, it was Sky or Luke. Well, you get the point. But yeah, is it ironic that my cats are named like Sky and Smokey after things you can describe the weather? I didn't name the second cat, okay? I named the first cat. Uh, can we get a blue or a bit or blue screen background to mimic your bedroom color? Mayhaps, mayhaps. Maybe Sir Pounce. Maybe it depends what color the cat is, right? Like I feel like Sir Pounce is only a good name for certain like types of cats. Also, hi Dvorlin, how are you? Um, a villain? Hell yeah. Also, I spelled villain wrong in the alert and in the thumbnail before I changed it, so shout out to anybody that caught that. Um, I'm sorry about the cats. Well, yeah, they lived long lives. They lived long lives. They had good lives, so it was a good time. It was a good time. I don't think they went straight to Dorne, just ended up there. Okay, okay, okay. I like cats too. They're pretty chill, which is nice. Which is nice. No, you're good, Ashley. Like this happened like a while ago, so you know. Sorry for your loss, Whitney. No, Ashley, you're good. You're good, Ashley. It's fine. It's fine, Ashley. It's fine. It's fine. Um, what are your honest thoughts on Book Tywin? The show portrayed him as if it was by Pycelle. I think Tywin is somebody that has his pros in terms of I think he's a good ruler. Like he is somebody that is a good ruler when he's put in that position, but he's somebody that's also a massive hypocrite. He's kind of just a really like weird and messed up guy. Thank you, Matthew, for continuing to be a member. I think you're almost done with the Stark icon, if I'm not mistaken. I think is it 12 months that you go to the next one? You get the Baratheon one, I think. But thank you. Um, but I think Tywin is a guy that is, I mean, he's a villain. How else do you put it? He's somebody that screwed up his son in Tyrion. You know, the stuff he does with Tywin and all that, or Tysha, I should say. He manipulates and turns his family against each other. He's a horrible, I mean, horrible father. You know, like he doesn't see the stuff happening between Jaime and Cersei, or if he did, he just allowed it to happen. Crazy. He messes up Tyrion. Tyrion, even though being the closest to Tywin, Tywin, not a good guy. I believe Lyanna Stark never wanted to marry Robert Baratheon. Yeah, and that's basically implied. We basically get the idea that Lyanna in the text, I believe it was from Ned's POV, that she didn't want to marry Robert because he was a drunk and he'd already had a bastard at this point. So, yeah. I also believe that's also where the quote comes up about Rhaegar and brothels. Tywin is a bad general with no impressive victories to his name. A good administrator, though. Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think Tywin's like a great army general either. He never gives me that vibe. Also, 14 years ago, season 1, episode 4 of Game of Thrones aired. It's the episode where Catelyn has Tyrion arrested. Oh my god. You're gonna make us feel old, JC. You're gonna make us feel real old. But yeah. To be back in the days of prime Game of Thrones. People glaze Tywin too much. I agree. Ashley, that's a damn. That's an accusation. That's all I gotta say. For future videos, I personally want analysis of the books and the writing rather than just in-universe plot. Yeah, I've been kind of trying to do that with the like the real like characters, more of a comparison of the books and the show. Like I'll have I think next week up will be the next Battle for the Wall like episode, which is going to be the actual Battle for the Wall. So I'll have that up for you guys. But yeah, I've been enjoying doing that kind of content more, but we'll see. I agree, Devorlin. She is a great character. I agree. Tywin is awful, but Charles dance is amazing. Agree. Agreed. Sorry, Ty will always be a Giga Chad in my eyes. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm gonna need more information on that, Ashley. You've got my interest. Okay, so now that I've caught up with chat, I've reacted to everybody's things and all that stuff. Um, I think, personally about Rhaegar, and we've kind of talked about it throughout the whole stream, really. I think it's a very complex question to ask. Rhaegar, is he a hero? Is he a villain? Like he's somewhere in between based on the knowledge we have now. He did a lot of things that led to a lot of people dying and a lot of bad things happening to his family. He's a little bit of a PDF file, as people said earlier on in the chat. Um, he's not the best guy, but at the same time, if we get to the end of the story and he's somebody that his actions allowed for the world to be saved. You look at that in another light and you're like, well, I mean, without him, we all die. Everybody in A Song of Ice and Fire dies. So it's tough to judge him because we don't know everything about his character. We have to pick actions and things to try and figure out who he is as a character. In a lot of ways, Rhaegar is a stereotypical fire and blood character. Like, we have perspectives of him from other people and the maesters, what they want to or show of this character. In a lot of ways, it's like that. It's like trying to take a fire and blood character and fleshing them out. Who are they exactly? With Rhaegar, it's much different because we have more sources on him in terms of the main story and stuff like that. But he's just a character that's very difficult to pin down. Yeah, Zeno, I kind of went away from the tier list because I feel like we've just done a lot of them, and I kind of wanted a break from them personally. And also, I'm not sure how I'm going to do tier list streams in the future because with this setup, of course, my actual computer's over there. Like, I can't reach my actual computer from where I am right now. That's why when we start streams, I like kind of, like I walk over and sit down. So the way I think I'd probably do those streams is I would use my old webcam and I would just, the background wouldn't be that good. Like, the background would just be like a side view of this. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm still yet to figure that out, really. Tier list. Worst ways Targaryens have died. Lamprey pie number one. Yeah, that's a good one. That'd be a good one though. Doing some deaths, some of the most random deaths. That'd be cool. Get a Bluetooth mouse. That's true. That could be a good shout out, Noro. That could be a good shout out. The only the only other problem I might have would be that I would be kind of far away. I might not be able to see the pictures as well, but I think it'll be good. It's been a while since we've seen Grease the Cruel. I mean, there hasn't been a lot that's really like pissed me off. I mean, yeah, there hasn't really been a lot that's like pissed me off. When House of the Dragon inevitably starts ramping up and stuff like that, and we'll talk about it. I will say we are doing like hot takes for me and Ricky's stream. Also, I want to say sorry about the audio in the last show. It was not good. Because I basically take the VOD from Ricky's channel, like he sends me it, and then I put it on Spotify. That audio could not be saved. like I was peaking the entire stream. That's just something we've got to test more before the stream. But yeah, hopefully that'll be better. But we'll be talking about hot takes. So if you have some outrageous takes, some wild stuff in there, throw them at Ricky, because Ricky's gonna put out posts. I'll put out posts, of course. I expect one of you to have some Maegor is not as bad as everybody says he is. One of you's got to say it, but that's all I'll say. I love theory crafting. Northern Tommy, love the community Greece has here. We have a great community. We might be in a little bit of a dry spell in terms of content, George. But we do what we can. Are you going to start announcing? Well, here's the thing, Dakota. Here's the thing. We do announce them, but usually it's like day before, day of type thing. We announce it, but I'm write it down right now. Write it down. It's gonna be on May 13th at noon U.S. Central Time. So, yeah, unless that changes, and if it does change, I'll let you guys know. The channel hot take is House Frey did nothing wrong. You can put that in there too. I'll defend House Frey to an extent if you do put that in there. So, yeah. But I will say thank you guys for all joining in. I thought it was a great stream. I think we had some really great discussion. And I will see you guys all in the next stream, which will be, well, you guys are going to get a stream Monday and Tuesday next week. So enjoy that. We'll have some videos up this week as well. And yeah, bye guys. Have a great rest of your day.